See, what we're not going to do is politicize this woman's death or use it to fuel a false narrative that undocumented immigrants are dangerous people. Because if this is all that you're pulling from this situation, just say you hate women and move on. The issue is that men are a danger to women. Women are terrified of men. If you ask me my biggest fear, the genuine answer is men. And if you took every single undocumented immigrant out of this country, my fear would still be men. I could start listing all of the women that have been murdered by white men. We could really get into it. All of the mass shootings that have been done by white men. If you really want to go tit for tat here, I promise you, this is a moot point. So again, say you hate women and move on.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the Lake and Raleigh situation, the unfortunate deletion of Lake and Raleigh. She was a University of Georgia, Athens student. And she was brutally deleted by an illegal immigrant, a guy who was from Nueva York. And before Nueva York, he was from Venezuela. So this guy crossed the border illegally. I think it was in 2022. He came here. He lived in New York, got in some trouble in New York, and somehow, some way, he made his way down to Athens, Georgia. We don't really know exactly how long he's been there, what he's been doing there. So this is all fresh, is all under investigation still, but I'm going to talk about the information we know. I'm going to react to some of the stuff. I'm going to go through an article, but first let's look at this Fox clip. We're going to get some insight into his charges, what exactly he did, and a little bit of the reaction down there in Athens, because it's pretty bad. Let's take a look.
Ron, I'm going to put up the charges now for this Venezuelan illegal immigrant that is allegedly killed Lake and Riley in Georgia. You can see them on your screen. It's malice murder, felony murder, all the way down to kidnapping, concealing the death of another. Ron, what I'd love to ask you is probably something that many people are asking themselves at home. So we now know how many times that Jose Ibarra came into contact with the system. That first time he comes into the system, and I haven't heard about his criminal background in Venezuela. How does Border Patrol check if what they have encountered is someone, you'll never know about their propensity for crime, but you will know about their history of crime?
Let me start by giving my condolences to the Riley family and Dan as well. These are preventable crimes, to the point. What happens in the system is when Border Patrol encounters people like this from wherever they are, they do the best they can, right? Everybody's fingerprinted into the system. That system is checked against the holdings that are in the United States. And that's important. Those are the holdings that the FBI and the databases that the states produce for people who have been previously arrested. And so do we share stuff with Venezuela? Yeah, through Interpol and other mechanisms. But it's not like checking with the local sheriff whether this person has been arrested before or whether the FBI has their fingerprints in a database somewhere in the United States. So we're really dependent on agent observation about, gang tattoos, other, attributes that the person might have. We may know that they're a criminal. We may know from a different source like intelligence that they're criminal. But we're really dependent on the holdings of the United States government. And in the case of this gangster or this individual from Venezuela, we knew that they were from Venezuela. They may or may not have had documents. We don't even really know that based on the testimony that they give to agents in the field. And so this is the idea, Will, of all the risks that we face when you have an out-of-control, chaotic border. These burdens come front and center to the Riley family, to Dan's family, and to families all across the world. Again, a preventable crime. And we know that in the case of Venezuela, we let them sell oil on the international market without having a repatriation agreement during the most critical time, when there were more people coming illegally from Venezuela than any other place in the world along our southwest border.
Okay, so you see what happened. The guy has deletion charges because this guy is a full-blown demon. We don't know if he's part of that new gang. I did a video before. We talked about a super gang forming in New York between MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. We don't know, was it a random act of violence? Right now, they're saying that he didn't know Laken. So what the hell is going on? They said this man used some type of tool to disfigure her skull. He dragged her body into the woods and just abandoned her body there, just left her there to rot. And had it not been for her roommate, who knows what would have happened? Who knows how long it would have taken for her to be found? But just horrific, all around horrific. And if you get on social media, you get on Instagram, you get on TikTok, you'll see a lot of progressive. You'll see a lot of leftist Democrats, hardline Democrats who fully support open border illegal immigration. They're saying, oh, this is so terrible. Why are you guys mentioning the fact that he's an illegal immigrant? Why do you have to say that? Why can't you just say an evil man deleted somebody? But you guys always try to say stuff about illegal immigrants. And this is what they're saying. They're saying it all over social media, trying to make arguments and saying, well, white men delete people too. White men delete people more often than illegal immigrants. They're defending this despicable illegal immigrant because he did something horrific, but it makes them look bad when they're trying to advocate for mass illegal immigration. So they want to say, okay, we got a bunch of bad apples. We got a super gang in New York. We got all types of crime going on. They selling box. They selling drugs up there in Chicago, doing all types of despicable stuff, robbing people, beating up old ladies. And they just deleted a lady in Georgia over here in Athens. And we're not even talking about the fact that they gunned down a police officer in Miami. So we got plenty of bad apples in a bunch, but they don't want to talk about that. They just want to say, okay, illegal immigrants are cool. Let's just let them in. Let's spend all types of money on them. And if somebody gets deleted, well, don't blame the fact that they're an illegal immigrants. So they're going to continue to push that talking point. White men delete more people than illegal immigrants, so illegal immigrants are cool. But I think Biden is kind of having a change of heart on this thing. So we're going to talk about Biden heading down to the border. I'm not sure what city he's going to, what part of the border he's going to, but the Border Patrol is telling him, hey, it's too late. And the thing about this is Biden is realizing politically this is a toxic issue for him. It's one of the worst issues in terms of polling for his re-election campaign because they tried to ignore the situation. He appointed Kamala as the border czar. Mayorkas sat on his hands, didn't do anything. And they just let millions of illegal immigrants, including people from the Middle East and China, they just let millions of them into the country. And now they're realizing months before the election, oh man, we need to do something. We need to save face. We need to try to save Biden. So Biden is now walking back a lot of those Democrat talking points. Them talking about, oh, the Republicans are so evil. They're just a bunch of racist scumbags. It looks like Biden wants to get on board with the Republicans because it's not looking good for him. President Biden's upcoming trip to the U.S.-Mexico border is too little, too late, the head of Border Patrol Union said Monday, arguing that the visit is primarily aimed at improving optics ahead of the November election. Yeah, because this man in the last year has not been there at all. I think it was January 2023, the last time he visited the border, and Kamala, she really didn't even go to the border. They're trying to give her credit saying she went to the border once in 3 years, one time. And even that one time, she went to the El Paso airport. That's not going to the border. Why don't you go down there to Eagle Pass where Greg Abbott is standing off with the feds on this massive influx of immigration? What about AOC? She hasn't been back. She hasn't gone down there to McAllen, Texas, where she was pushing out fake tears for a photo op. Everything that he does is too little, too late, Brandon Judd, the president of the National Border Patrol Council, said during an appearance on Fox News. He had 3 years to do what he needed to do to secure the border. He had 3 years to put policies in place, the union chief continued. Now we're only 8 months from an election, and now it looks like he's interested. And he's only interested in it because it's self-serving, and he wants to save himself. Yeah, these Border Patrol people aren't stupid. So you're going to go down there, shake some hands, give a BS speech, a bunch of talking points, a bunch of lip service. You're not going to do anything, and they're calling you out before the speech even happens because he's supposed to go down there tomorrow. And before the speech even happens, they're already calling him out on his BS because they see that this man doesn't give a damn. They deal with this every day, and they know he's a full-blown hypocrite. Even though we saw what just happened to the girl in Georgia, unfortunate and tragic, Biden isn't going to give a damn because the DNC and Biden's handlers, they have a larger agenda. And this guy, he's saying Biden had 3 years to put policies in place. Well, he didn't have to put policies in place because Trump already had the policies there. He had the Remain in Mexico policy. He had the border sealed up pretty good. He wasn't sitting here being suckered by a bunch of lying immigrants saying that they're asylum seekers. And Biden completely undid it just because he wanted to virtue signal, came in day one. I don't care what Trump was doing with immigration. I don't care how sound and how reasonable his policies was. He was trying to build a wall. I don't care about that. Let me just completely undo everything on day one just to virtue signal and tell people that I'm better. That's all it was. But the truth of the matter is, yes, he could stop this flow tomorrow. Judd argued that Biden 81 could substantially reduce the record number of migrants that have been overwhelming cities across the country if he were to reach an agreement with Mexico to re-implement their so-called Remain in Mexico policy, which would force migrants seeking asylum to wait for their U.S. immigration court hearing south of the border. Now, this policy, this Remain in Mexico policy, was one of the most effective policies in terms of immigration, because what's happening now, you have something called catch and release. You have a version of catch and release mixed with the asylum seeker policy. So these guys, they'll cross illegally or they'll intentionally go to a checkpoint and they'll just say they're an asylum seeker. And then they're processed by Border Patrol. They're given a court date, and it could be up to 10 years from now, because there's a lack of judges and they move really slow on this. So these guys will say, okay, you can come into the United States, go anywhere you want in the United States. You're free to go. Just be sure to come back 8, 9, 10 years from now and go to a court hearing about your asylum hearing. So in the meantime, go ahead. You're free to go. Trump said, look, they're taking advantage of that because that's an enormous loophole. They're making you guys look like fools. So how about this? If they say they're an asylum seeker, they have to go back to Mexico. They remain south of the border. So we have a court hearing 10 years from now, but you have to remain in Mexico until then. You're not going to become in the United States. And so many of these lying-ass migrants who are not really asylum seekers, maybe a few are, but most of them aren't. So many of these people said, damn, well, it's not even worth it, because I thought I was going to use that loophole to sucker these fools and get into the United States. Because a lot of these people, they give them these court hearings, they don't come back. You think they're going to come back in 10 years? Hell no. So since they had to remain in Mexico, they said, well, it's not even worth it. We're not even going to go because there's no massive flaw in the system to allow us to stay in here. However, Biden is reluctant to do that because it would be unappealing to his staunchest supporters, according to the Union boss. There it is. That's the truth. The hard left, the far left wing, these radicals, these full-blown woke activist freaks, these people who sit here and bitch and cry, make a lot of noise on Twitter. There's only a handful of them, but the left is afraid of them. And Biden, Pelosi, and all of those Democrats, they constantly fold to the farthest part of their party. So you may have centrist Democrats, you may have a few reasonable Democrats, but these loud, ignorant, noisy people on the far left of the spectrum, they make the Biden administration fold all the time. That's why Obama and Biden, they folded to issues like gay marriage. That's why right now Biden is starting to fold when it comes to the Israel-Gaza situation. And he's folded for the last few years on this immigration issue to the far left. He doesn't want to do that. That goes against his base of support, Justice. If you look at the base of support, and even though he's underwater in the polling, there are still 30% of the public that thinks he's doing the right thing on border security. That is his base. Those people vote, and he doesn't want to go against them. Yeah, so you're trying to appease a minority of the Democrat Party, and you're pissing off the rest of the entire country. Over 80% of the population say that immigration is a serious issue. So he wants to throw his hands in the air and blame Congress rather than implementing the proper policy, which he has the authority to do right now. And that's something the Republicans have been failing to do. They have not properly talked about the fact that Trump had the policies in place and Biden completely undid everything Trump had in place unnecessarily just to virtue signal, and it's completely collapsing on him. Biden is even building wall in Arizona because even though they virtue signal and they talk trash about, oh, the walls don't work and they're racist, Biden is building wall, and he's using an excuse, well, I don't have a choice but to build wall, because they know that it's effective. And these people need to push these things. They need to push what's happening. Biden is secretly building wall. He doesn't want his base to find out. Talk openly about the Remain in Mexico policy, how ridiculous Biden is doing right now with undoing the Remain in Mexico policy, how stupid it is to let millions of people in, just claim they're asylum seekers. Biden on Thursday would travel to Brownsville, Texas, to meet with U.S. Border Patrol agents, law enforcement, and local leaders. A White House official said of the scheduled trip, the president's first to the border since last January. He will discuss the urgent need to pass the Senate bipartisan border security agreement, the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border in decades, official added. That's what it's really about. This is the real issue, because this man doesn't give a damn about illegal immigration, even though he knows he needs to pretend that he does for election's sake. They have this quote unquote bipartisan Senate bill that was passed is really a foreign policy money spending agreement. They're going to print billions of dollars and send it over to Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, and of course in their own pockets. And they lumped in Border Patrol. So they held border security hostage. They said, look, we're not going to do anything serious about border security unless you allow us to spend billions and billions of dollars on foreign countries. And these guys, they really want to tout this. Biden is going to go down there to try to put pressure on House Speaker Mike Johnson to have the House vote on this, have the House pass this bill, because it's really just going to send money overseas. And they're going to do a little bit for border security, but it's really not even good for border security, because this bill that he's going to be talking about allows 1.8 million, up to 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country. It's a foreign policy bill that mentions and talks about border security and has a toxic poison pill for border security. But they're going to say, well, the Republicans are bad because they don't really want border security because they won't pass this foreign policy bill. He will reiterate his calls for congressional Republicans to stop playing politics. There you go. And to provide the funding needed for additional U.S. Border Patrol agents, more asylum officers, fentanyl detection technology, and more. The trip comes as the president reportedly considers whether to use executive powers to beef up asylum standards and turn away migrants seeking to enter the U.S. between ports of entry. So this is the White House admitting that Trump knew what the hell he was doing, because right now Biden is considering walking back his own left-wing policies and taking on some of Trump's policies. We'll see if it actually happens. But he's allegedly considering using Trump's policies because they actually work. Judge said that based on his multiple interactions with impeached Deputy of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, it is unlikely that the administration will drastically change course on addressing the crisis on the border. He just wasn't interested in implementing anything, Judge said of his conversation with Mayorkas, who leads the department that oversees Border Patrol agents. There's a number of things that this administration can do. I spoke directly with Mayorkas about this. He refused to listen to any of it, and Biden will refuse to listen tomorrow. So they already know it's going to be lip service. These guys, Mayorkas, Biden, Harris, all of these people, they don't know anything about border security, yet they're in charge of it. Mayorkas was listening to one of the leaders of Border Patrol, and he's giving him lip service, but he's not really interested in anything that the guy has to say. He's just taking the job, beef up his resume, and of course get paid. So there you have it. Biden is going to go down there. He's going to give lip service. Nothing's going to change. I don't think anything's going to change. They're saying he's considering using Trump's policies. He's considering changing the definition of the word asylum so people can't just go to the Border Patrol entries and say, well, I'm an asylum seeker, let me in. So he's been getting suckered on that policy for years. So he's considering changing the definition of asylum seeker and making it to where they can't do that anymore. I don't know if he's going to do it. I kind of doubt that he will, but I'll believe it when I see it. And it's a tragic situation. It's a damn shame what happened in Georgia, what happened in New York, what happened in Miami. All of these criminal illegal aliens just running around the country, causing chaos, stomped out police officers, pushing drugs all over the country. We have people ODing every day. And then we have these idiots over here trying to say, well, white men delete people too. So they don't even want to address the fact that illegal immigration is a problem. But let me know what you guys think. Leave me your thoughts below. Share the video. Thanks for watching.